welcome to Women in Workforce, a series celebrating Capital Area Michigan workforce development. I'm Carrie Rosigana. I'm the CEO of Capital Area Michigan Works, and we serve the three-county region here in the capital area. I'll be your host as we bring together women in positions of leadership to shine a spotlight on their workforce impact while also talking about and discussing some of the disparities that are still faced for women in the workforce.
And I'm Kate Snyder. I'm the CEO of Piper & Gold Public Relations, and I'll be joining Carrie each episode as co-host. That's in part because after decades of friendship and working alongside each other in workforce development, Carrie and I we were talking about what we wanted people to understand. And so we created this series to highlight the contributions of women in our region's workforce and workforce development as a whole to help people understand. But also, we really wanted to create a platform for discussion and a place where women could talk about the unique disparities that we face professionally.
So every episode, we're going to have a roundtable discussion, and we're going to bring fellow community leaders together so that we can talk about the things that Kate mentioned. And today, we're really fortunate to be recording at Risky Studios here in East Lansing, and we're so grateful that you've chosen to join us. So we're going to dive right in.
Okay, so I am so excited to have the three of you here. I'm just gonna be giddy this whole time. But when we all know that like when we get amazing, smart, talented female leaders together, like our intros alone could be a whole episode. So we are just gonna call this what it is. This segment is called This Could Be a Whole Episode. And instead of full biographies and full introductions, we're asking each of our guests today to sum up their professional bio in one sentence. And then we really want to understand what's behind the bio. I think that's a really critical part of women in leadership is the pressure to not show that, the compulsion to show that, and especially kind of where we're at in the world right now, what a challenge that can be. So we want to know what's behind the bio and have you share a single sentence about what you want people to know or understand about you that we wouldn't read in the bio. We wouldn't know from your LinkedIn page. So we're doing this really to be able to normalize being humans as leaders and how we can help women understand that we can be strong and imperfect at the same time. We can fail and succeed at the same time, and that we are more than just these professional presences we put out there.
So with that, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing or starting the introductions for our guests today. And before I even start that, this is a really special episode for me. And it really does feel like a CAMW, Capital Area Michigan Works reunion, because I get to be here with people who are near and dear to my heart for so many reasons, and people who I genuinely look up to as female leaders and who have really guided me in my leadership roles with our organization. And I am a deeply emotional person, so I'm going to try really hard this episode not to get emotional and just be really
be emotional.
Thank you.
Own your emotional. Like, you be emotional if you want. It's part of your charm.
I might be emotional too.
I know. I was about to tear up over here because I was like thinking about when I first got my job offer at Capital Area Michigan Works, and then I was actually like reliving you calling me to say that you got this. Now, see, I'm gonna cry. You calling me to say that you got the CEO job, and I was walking up and down the sidewalk in front of my house, screaming and jumping up and down because I was so excited for you, and I was like sobbing and like, yeah.
Yeah, so
this is a special episode.
This is how this episode's going to go. So,
it's going to be a lot of tears.
It feels really appropriate for me to be able to introduce our first guest today, who is my dear, dear, dear friend and my personal mentor, Edythe Copeland, who is the CEO of Edythe Enterprises, a travel blogger, which you should all follow because she does amazing travel trips.
So cool.
And the woman who really held the CEO and COO job right before me And I am so honored, Edie, that you had time to be able to join us in between your travels around the world.
Because you are living your best life.
I am living my best life.
Is that your sentence? I am living my
best life.
Okay, so it should be. So, Edie, how would you, in one sentence, describe your bio?
In one sentence, I would describe my bio as heaven right here on earth.
Oh, that just gets me right in the gut. Is there anything you want people to know about you behind your bio?
Well, first of all, I just believe that every day is a gift. Every day is a gift, and I want to make sure that when I go to bed at night every day, that I have done something during the day to make the world a better place than it was when I woke up. And that's really been what my entire life up to now has been about.
It really is true. And you've done that. I've seen you do that.
Oh, sorry, I got distracted because I'm trying not to cry. It's cool. But on that note, I mean, one thing that I'm sure people say about you all the time, Edie, is like, oh, you're so strong. But one of the things that I love and have always respected about you is that, like, you love so deep and so hard. Like, okay, you're strong. That's awesome. Cool. But, like, you love your family. You love the people you work with. You bring so much joy into a room. Like, you had us all over for dinner once at Capillary Michigan Works.
When you left, matter of fact.
Yes.
reasons.
But it was okay.
I don't think it was because I was leaving.
It was a celebration of your new adventure.
Yes, it was.
But like,
She's leaving.
deuces. I'm going to go out and I'm going to fail super hard at the next job I get. Super hard.
No, we knew you were going to be successful, and so that was just the extra push you needed to move on to the next journey.
Yeah, failing really, really hard for 5 months was the next push to start Piper Gold. It really was. We don't talk about failure enough. I glance over that one in my resume and bio very often, but I sucked hard at a job right after I left CAMW. It was brutal. But anyway, we came over to your house and like you loved us so hard just through like the food that you served and I love you. Thank you for being here, and I'm so excited and so grateful that we get to talk to you today and get to learn from you because you've been a huge part of my career personally. I was 23 years old when I started working with you. And I'm now 42, almost 43 years old. So 20 years I've had the opportunity to learn from you and have learned so much. And that same amount of time with Jane as the chair of the Workforce Development Board. And so it's been amazing. And you have given me, when we worked together when you were retired, to share your kind of closing thoughts and challenge to the business community. It was truly the most rewarding and meaningful professional experience of my life. I have never been, now I'm going to cry again, I've never been so honored to feel so trusted and to get to help someone do something so important, especially for someone that I love so much. Like, it was, I love you, okay.
Well, thanks for all that. But I do have to add that the reason I was able to do what I did was because of board members like Rebecca and Jane that allowed me to be able to not only be myself, but even encourage me to step outside of what would be normal to put my own spin and my own twist on it after, Doug left. So I owe a lot of my success to these two ladies right here.
Which is why it's the perfect mix of people
Absolutely
to have this conversation.
Perfect.
Why
Yes.
this is our very special episode. So I do get to introduce Rebecca Bahar-Cook, CEO of Capital Fundraising Associates. And another, small business owner. You probably don't even realize this, but I think I was a wee babe, and
So was I.
okay, yeah, we were wee babes. It's cool. And Kim was doing something with your company. It was like before you were on the board, and there was something volunteer that I was involved with, and we got to work with you, and I was just like, ooh, yes, the way that you command a room, and the way that you were just and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and this is what we're all going to do. Got it? Cool. And it was just so inspiring and awesome. And then we got to know you as the Ingham County representative on the administrative board at Capital Area Michigan Works, and now as the chair of the workforce development board at Capital Area Michigan Works. So, and then on top of all of that, I have really loved getting to be in the Athena Executive Connections group together. I feel like that's the chance where I've gotten to actually get to know you. And you gave me just some really fantastic advice about my son and some of the things I was really worried about with him. And I am so grateful that we've been able to go through that experience together. So thank you for being here and for the impacts you've had on at least this woman in the workforce. So can you share your one-sentence bio and what's behind the bio?
My one-sentence bio, and Edie's was so much better, but my one-sentence bio is that I help organizations raise money smarter, not harder. And the behind the scenes is it is so amazing when you match up the right donor with the right organization and you watch the sparks fly, and all of a sudden the two of them have come out with the funding and the procedure to change the world and make it a better place. It's magical, it's invigorating, it's exciting, it's what gets me up and going in the morning. I love it.
I feel you.
You can feel the passion.
Oh, I love it. I'm the
Makes all the
luckiest
difference.
person in the world. First of all, I can't work for anybody else because that boss lady stuff is real, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I tell everybody what to do, which is not a great way, to get ahead in some types of business. But if any of you are like that, just start your own business. It's the best way to be.
It's hard for a while, and then you hit a point where you're like, oh. At first, when everyone was like, you know this, Jane. You'll have so much freedom, so much flexibility. In the first 5 years, I was like, stop. No, that is not real. They lying liars who lied to me. And I was betrayed. I was like, this is awful. And then you get to a certain point where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's fun.
Now I can do this.
Right. It's fun. It's fun to be your own boss.
Now it is, yeah.
Well, and I think that's a great segue into introducing our final guest today, Miss Jane Doty, restaurateur with H&H Restaurants and a multi-decade, decade.
Decade.
Yes.
Because she started when she was 12.
That is exactly right.
She was a preteen.
Yep. So she served as our chair of the Capital Area
Yes.
Michigan Works Workforce Development Board and also received our highly coveted Leonard Peener's Lifetime Achievement Award. So, Jane, you know how much you have dedicated to this community and how much we have felt that care and love and everything that you've done. And even though you're no longer serving, you drive all of us to continue that work. And I am so grateful that you took time out of your schedule to come here and have a conversation with us today. So I would love to know from you, what's your one-sentence bio and story behind the bio?
My one-sentence bio is I'm an entrepreneur.
Yes, you are.
The story behind is that just about every organization or association or anything involved with what I've been doing as an entrepreneur, I went to the top.
Yes.
I was the first woman to be on the Great Lakes Franchise Association board. I was the first woman president of Grand Ledge Country Club. I was, the president of H&H Restaurants and now the owner of H&H Restaurants. And in fact, my sister sent me a card when I turned 50 and said, I can't believe it. You always rise to the top.
Oh. That speaks to your character, though, and your dedication and the deep work that you put in, though, too,
work,
Jane.
The work.
The work.
Yeah.
The work.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The work.
It does. Thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could make it.
Me too.
And I love that you own that you rose to the top. Like that you're like, yeah, that's, yep, I do that. That's, like there's no.
I have the cream.
Yeah,
That is so
because
true.
you are and you do. And I love that you can set that example for other women that it's okay to say, I am really good at what I do and I will go into any situation and thrive.
My husband has made a sign for me that said boss, and that's what he calls me. The boss.
It's appropriate, though.
Yeah. And like when we were getting little, like we got journals to all be able to take notes and things like that. And I very intentionally was like, I am staying away from girl boss or boss lady or boss. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but like, yeah, boss B or whatever. I stayed away from those because I was like, no, boss.
Yeah.
Like, just boss. You're a boss, Jane.
Yeah.
I love you. Okay, so we are going to transition to our first big segment called The 5 Questions. And I know y'all came prepared. I saw the notes and I am so excited. So let's get into it. We have 5 questions. We ask a mix of them each episode. And so we are just going to dive right in with our first question.
And this is a free-for-all, so I'm not going to ask one of you. You guys jump in and say whatever you think. So this is a big one, and one I know you have answers for. What are the biggest challenges that you believe are unique to women or that women face in the workforce today?
I think because women are expected culturally in probably every culture there is to be the caregiver, the homemaker, and if anything goes kaflooey, it comes back on the woman, whether or not she has a job outside the home, and then women wind up being the ones that lose their jobs because they have to take too much time off. They don't get promotions because they have to take too much time off, and it's not just one race. It's not one culture. I believe that that's across the board.
And the data backs you up on that.
It does. And we certainly saw that during the pandemic. We know even as numbers returned, I mean, I think one report we just read even last year said still 100,000 women were still out of the workforce compared to the return rate for men. And I think that only speaks to what you just said, Jane. There's still those challenges that are at play. And when childcare isn't available, who's typically going to stay home? Right. All of those factors, I think, are highly illustrated by the data that's only shown that to be more true during COVID and since COVID. Yeah. How about you, Edie and Rebecca? What do you think?
Go ahead.
I hate to say this because we've been talking about it for so long, and it's still there. It's the old boys network, right?
Yeah.
Like
I was going to say that.
I know.
You can add on to it, Edie.
I know, which is almost why I let you go first, because I do have another one if you pick
Nope,
you want to hear. I'll
go right ahead.
there. You can use the one I didn't use.
We'll talk about that one next.
Oh,
But-
that's a good one too.
And I don't even know that it's necessarily intentional, but even when I'm surrounded by men who have encouraged me and supported me and promoted me and helped me get contracts, they treat each other differently.
They do,
They
yeah.
still treat each other differently. They treat us differently, and they treat themselves differently. And I don't know how to break it. I mean, the walls are coming down for sure. I mean, we were just talking about Rotary, and Kelly Rossman McKinney, God bless her soul, used to say, I'm the first ovarian Rotarian, because they didn't even let us into the room. So it's not, when I graduated high school, women weren't allowed to have their own bank accounts. So, breaking all of these barriers down are all important. But that boys network, they still talk to each other. They call each other. They think about each other. And I think that's the biggest barrier. If we're not in the room making noise, saying, look at us, look at us, look at us, we're good, we're the best, we can do it, they don't necessarily seek us out. It's getting better, but it's still there.
And how can we be when we're the ones that are picking kids up and running them to sports practices and making sure that dinner's on the table and making sure that there's laundry so your child can go to school and clean socks the next day and yes, there are many women, increasing numbers of women choosing not to have children, and you can understand why in some ways, right? Like,
because it's going to make it hard for them to get to, if you really want to have a career and make it to the top, which very few of us ever make it to the top. So I love your comment about starting your own business, because I know my experience, if it hadn't have been for my predecessor, and he even told me, he said, when you become CEO, there are going to be a lot of old gray beards that are not going to accept you. And he was absolutely right. But, you just have to persevere, because I got to the point where it's like, well, I don't care. I'm going to do what I need to do to advance this agency. Yeah. And you either get on the train or get off the tracks. That was my saying, get on or get off, because, at the end of the day, if we're not given the opportunity, and let's just be honest, a lot of times we're better at it than some of them that are in some of these positions. And they know it. And they know it. Right. And they're threatened. And so if it's not for somebody that is open-minded and really willing to give you a chance, you'll never see more women in the boardroom.
I will say, though, I think we have to, I, for one, have had and maybe that's, maybe, no. It has really boosted me and let me be as successful as I am, is I have a partner who does all the grocery shopping, makes most of the meals, did the laundry when the kids were little. They're not all bad. I understand. Some of you are wonderful, and thank you.
Hashtag not all men.
Not all men, yeah. But I would bet that story is the same for each of us, right? We've had partners who have supported us, who have understood if we had to skip a meal or a parent-teacher conference and was able to step in. Because those are the sacrifices that men make all the time, but when we make them, we're made to feel bad about them, or like we're not pulling our own weight. God bless those women who somehow find a way to be at every parent-teacher conference, bake all the brownies for all the after-school activities, get their kids back and forth in time, and do what I did. I couldn't have done it without my partner. I couldn't have.
Well, and women are better at multitasking by far. Men's brains are like this, and women's brains are, like that.
Well, and the societal,
we had to gather and they had to hunt.
Well, and the societal conditioning on that front too, right? Like, when you were talking about, the boys' club and that they're thinking about each other, they're calling each other, they're in social circles together. They're at they're golfing together. But and I do laugh at the and a lot of us are better at our jobs at it. Well, because we're having to work 10 times harder just to keep up. And so for women and men of color, it is we're better at our jobs because we've had to work so much harder.
You wouldn't pay us any attention if we were as good as you.
But then by the time we get there, we are friggin' exhausted. And, because, we've had to fight so hard just to get there.
I do think, too, having a partner, I'm lucky, too, like you. I have a really fantastic partner, but I also think it's other supporters that you have, too, in your network. So, I think about when I had situations with work, I could go to you, Edie, as my boss and talk to you about this is what's going on. If I am not my normal self, this is what's happening. That made so much of a difference to be able to share that with somebody that I trusted and who understood that. And to have people like you, Kate, who, I've known you for decades and you're in a similar situation, that makes a difference to have those women who understand or at least can reflect some of the same experiences that you've had to get it.
Yeah.
It makes a difference.
Your husband wasn't threatened by you being boss. He embraced it, and I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What those having other women you can go to, you know, and being able to continue to grow together or find people that are in those life phases with you really is so important. You know, we talk that we've known each other for a really long time. 98. We met in August of 1998.
As freshmen in college.
As freshmen at Michigan State,
I didn't
which
know that.
automatically lets people age us. We're both 43. And I like...
You're not 43.
Oh, am I not?
I'm older than you, remember?
Oh, I'm not. I'm not.
could've made
I turned 43.
I made them do the math and see maybe they would have skipped that
You
part.
did say almost 43.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There you go.
yeah.
I'm older than you.
Only by like 6 months. But yeah, I do hold that over her head for significant portions of the year. But that being said, and I think we probably had our most genuine, authentic, meaningful conversation we have ever had in all those years of friendship. Like, what was it, maybe 6 weeks ago when we got coffee to plan this series out. And so, like, being able to continue to grow in those relationships as you grow, as a person, I think it's just like, we get this notion, like, the older you get, the harder it is to make friends. But you can still find new levels of relationship and connection no matter the age.
Yep.
Okay. I get to ask you the next question. So...
Did Edie answer the last one?
I did. Didn't I?
But she did not take your answer.
didn't
So
take
do
my
we want to talk here? I'm going to answer. I'm going to ask a very leading question.
See what you started, Rebecca?
It's an important one.
I don't have to take over this. This is yours. You're the co-host. You can answer questions or ask questions or whatever order you want.
If you could wave a magic wand
question.
and make one sweeping change to reduce the harm caused by gender disparities in the workforce and to promote gender equity, what one change would you make?
You asking me personally?
Yeah, I'm asking you because I saw you write it down.
Yeah. So
It's a good one.
9 women on the Supreme Court. I mean, can you imagine if we had leaders that were all women or majority Congress were more than 50% female or the legislature? I think that would change everything. It would be the best magic wand. Poof.
What do you think, Edie?
I think if we would replace all the men that are in these positions with women and give them 1 year to do whatever job that man is doing, and I'm specifically speaking about executive management, if I could wave that wand, that's what I would do, because I would want to see the differences that women would make within that 1 year period. And let them be able to look back at it and see what we can do if we're allowed to be in those positions.
I love that too.
Ultimate societal experiment.
I don't think men are willing to accept that women can do as good a job as they can.
But that's why I want to wave that wand.
That's what the wand's for.
Poof. Your turn.
Jane, what would your magic wand do?
Oh, man.
Poor Joshua over here is hanging out for our man hater episode.
We're not man hating.
No, I just
We just want the opportunities.
that's the exact way to say it.
Opportunities.
It's
We
important.
just want the opportunities.
It's important to say that. Like, it's important to say, because people are going to hear this and be like, man haters.
No.
Like, that's reverse feminism or what. Like, that's manism. I don't know. That's probably on the internet already. But, I feel like it's important to say it's because we haven't been granted the opportunities.
Opportunity.
Right.
And so none of us know what would happen.
I do.
It's
It'd be
like
awesome.
taking that wand and breaking that glass ceiling, and then it's no longer there anywhere.
And I know what you wrote down because I'm sitting next to you. Pay equity is a huge part of that discussion. There is still such a disparity between what we as women leaders or women in general in any position.
I think I just read it's going to take over 100 years to get to pay equity.
Is that real? How can that be?
That's true. I read that same thing.
Yeah, 100 years. That's what I mean. And honestly, when we talk about empowerment and workforce issues and how do we, if you're gonna pay us less than it costs us to put the kids in daycare, how can we do it?
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, and that too, that's like, for me, the magic wand is the access issue too, right? The pay equity issue is huge, and the pay equity is far, far greater for women of color, with the exception of Asian women, right? Like, it is far greater. And so, that speaks to access issues. And how can we expect women of color to be able to get ahead and be able to take on the larger responsibilities, the bigger time commitments of leadership roles to advance, when the pay equity is so great and childcare is just not gonna happen? Like, when you're paying to work.
Oh, and that women of color thing it's so upsetting. I was watching this article on CBS News, I think, and this woman owns an ice cream shop, right? And she was talking about she quit tipping because she was finding that her black baristas were making far less money per hour than her white baristas in tips. And it wasn't equitable. So she said, no more tips. From now on, everybody's making the same hourly wage. Otherwise, I can't do it. I can't make the person across the cash register do the right thing. So I'm going to do the right thing. Oh, it made me so mad when I read that. I saw that.
But what a stance to take for that business owner. Not a but a and what a stance to take, because that is so important for us to stand up too when we have the opportunity as leaders to make an impact where we can too, which I think is critically important.
Which is what gives me hope for your generation of women, that you will make a difference, and not just in workforce issues, but in who you love and
children you raise.
Yes, all of that, I just have so much hope because your generation is much more accepting of, whether it's interracial marriages, whether it's adopting children of another race, whether it's you're gay, lesbian, queer, transgender, you're more accepting, and you are willing to fight for those that may not be able to fight for themselves because they're not in the rooms that you guys are, or you gals are in. And so that really gives me so much encouragement, and which I, when I did that last article or the one before that, I think I talked about that. Because if we continue the road we're going on now, I'm just really concerned that there will never be, I sometimes feel like we're going back to the 60s now anyway, in a lot of cases. So, yeah, it'd be great to have 9 women on the Supreme Court. It would be great to have the majority women running these businesses, and to be able to encourage other women to don't let anybody dictate your destiny. You are responsible and can do as much and go as high as you want.
I don't even know what to say.
No one can talk. We're just going to take a moment to...
I'm sure that my face in many of those clips watching you is just trying to control the emotions because, Edie, you're right. We do want to stand up. There's reasons that we want to have conversations like this because we need to have these conversations. It's not something that should be hidden. It's something we need to talk about so that we can be upfront and we can hopefully make changes for future generations. And Kate and I are both raising young people, and we want them to grow up where they have opportunities. I have a daughter. I want her to see women having those experiences and opportunities to be whoever she wants to be. And you have daughters. I know that you've wanted to do the same for them.
Well, and I think we're kind of fortunate here in Ingham County. Governor Whitmer was our state senator. Sarah Anthony is amazing. Mm-hmm. Angela Whitwer did a lot of hard work.
Yes,
we
absolutely.
are surrounded by women leaders who are breaking those glass ceilings, who are your children will also see it around them. It's hard to imagine what you can't see. You can't dream if you can't see it.
Yeah.
They're seeing it. Mm-hmm. Not enough of it, but they're seeing it.
Yeah.
And I think too, with some of the generational changes, we have, younger than us. I'm an Xer, and even younger than the millennials, we've got Gen Z, and the level of gender fluidity, like the data and research and statistics about the level of gender fluidity within that generation is really fascinating. And I think that part of this is not only, giving women access to those positions, but then also normalizing and supporting men in those traditional care roles. Like when my husband took a parental leave, he was the first person in his company to do that. And he hated it because he is not someone that wanted to be a mouthpiece, that wanted to have a national spotlight shined on him. He actually was given an opportunity to be interviewed for a New York Times article about it, and he declined because he's like, I don't want to be the mouthpiece for this. I just want my time with to help you heal and to take care of my kid. And like the fact that he was the first, and he does not work at a small or young business. And the fact that he had to blaze this trail and figure out how did he take a parental leave. And when he first said it, his boss, who's awesome, was like, no, you can't do that. And he's like, actually, I can. It's called FMLA. And he had to be the one to, and like HR didn't know how to handle it. And it was a whole thing. And it was really like, he had to be really committed to that parental leave, to just in this very male dominated industry, very heavily male company, to like be willing to do that and be looked at and potentially be judged in the way that we always get judged for stuff like that. But, it was his first time experiencing that kind of thing as my husband's a white man. And so like, it was his first time experiencing that type of like, ew, you're rocking the boat a little too much here. And it was really uncomfortable. And he still gets a lot of, he was definitely the primary caregiver to our son early on. And we still face those things all the time. He would always be listed as the first contact on like the daycare or doctor, and they would still call me first. Always. And I was like, I am not going to answer the phone. He is like able to answer. I got so excited, I threw my pen. He is able to answer his phone. There is a reason he is the primary contact, and I am not. And so you can call me 5 friggin' times, and you do. But if you really want to get a hold of someone, call the primary contact. He'll answer the phone right away. And so just like those kind of things too, like normalizing that my like extended, my family, the guy works in, it's a male-female marriage with a child. And he works with kids, and he has nannied before. Oh, talk about some stigmas, right? Like leaving a man alone with your kids. Well, kind of 50% of their DNA came from a dude. So like, I don't know why we're so worried about this, but and so yeah, normalizing emotions, normalizing caregiving positions, normalizing men being in supportive secondary roles is another big thing.
And it's getting better, right?
It's getting better.
I mean,
yeah.
my grandfather, I don't think ever changed a diaper. And my husband was in there, every day. Yep. So we're getting there.
We're getting there.
It'll take us 100 years for pants. What do you think we're getting?
I can't believe it's 100 freaking years.
I think it's like 107 or 140.
No, just no.
100.
No. Wow. No, I'm just going to pretend that's not real.
That's crazy.
Okay, so we are like going to town here. How are y'all doing time-wise? Are you okay? Do you have to be somewhere right after we finish recording? So I'm going to say, I'm going to recommend that we do this as a 2-parter episode. Because if we if we want to kind of like talk through the rest of it. Yeah, we're on question. We are already at our let's start wrapping it up time count. So we could either let's start wrapping it up, or we could do it as a 2-parter episode.
Yeah, what do you guys want to do? I know schedules. Okay.
All right.
You want to keep going? Is that what
we can take a little break. We can do a little we're going to wrap up, take a little break, and then we'll come back, do a quick intro of who we are and to be continued this so that we can we can give people a chance to like pause and go to the bathroom.
And please watch part 2 or you'll really hurt our feelings.
Yeah. We have never once in all these been like and follow. Be sure you can tell like we are Gen X when we're like, hey, this is a thing. It'll be on the internet, I guess.
That's pretty much our
we have
approach.
not been like, follow, blah, blah. My husband was like, what are y'all going to do with the ad revenue? I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, is that it? I don't know. Apparently.
We'll come back. We'll
Not
be back.
after this episode.
All right, so we will be back with Edie, Rebecca, and Jane in just a minute for part 2 of the Capillary Michigan Works reunion special.